Well, you know the score at this stage. It's late into the evening here at Shelbourne Park, and I am going to chat to somebody. A man I've been chatting to for quite a number of years on this very occasion. Kevin Hennessy of BoyleSports joining me to discuss the opening 13 heats of the BoyleSports Irish Greyhound Derby. It's only halfway through the opening round, but already I think it's safe to say this is going to be a mouth-watering derby.
Oh, it is. Just the nervous energy, anticipation, I suppose, waiting for COOLAVANNY HOFFA to come back and stamping his authority. And every year we come up here waiting to unearth a couple of gems, and the likes of good MAESTRO coming out stamping a serious run and putting down a marker very early on. And then you've got the likes of the CLONA Dukes of this world, the ready-made sort of superstars putting down their marker as well. So look, 6 weeks ahead, can't wait. We have to try and advise people to find the winners, which is a lot easier said than done.
It sure is. Let's go through them. 13 heats in all. We'll start as we always do at the start.
Yep.
Fully enough. BULLETFROMAGUN was the first dog drawn in the Derby, and he was the first winner in the Derby. This fellow lives up to his name regularly. He's a good starter, got to the front. It was put up to him by Capitan Garfield off the second bend, but once going to the front, you just knew BULLETFROMAGUN. He stays out this 550 yards really strongly. I thought it was an impressive winner.
He was, yeah, because he ran really well in the Derby last year. He showed loads of early in the Derby last year, ran a number of rounds, and that's his style. He stays very wide. He'll stay out of plenty of trouble. He's got good early, good back straight pace, and like you said, he's not too vulnerable from the front either. He'll keep kicking for you. Do you know what I mean? He's a great marker to put down. In 29.77, look, there was faster runs on the night, but you're pretty much guaranteed that run from him every night, because he's not going to get involved in any scrimmaging on the run to the bend. He'll stay out wide, mind his own business, and every night he goes to the box, he gives a great run. He's been a great servant for Brendan Mansell, and hopefully he'll keep going a couple more rounds.
Yeah, a few vocal owners as well, they love it. 29.71 is his career best. He did 29.80, 29.83 in his previous two starts. Yeah. 29.77 tonight, as you said. Just put him down for 29.70 odd every single night a week. If that's good enough, it's good enough. It's not, it's not. In second, Callaway Masters ran on. I was surprised the amount of money that came for Callaway Masters. I didn't particularly fancy him. I thought BULLETFROMAGUN had a chance of reversing the form from last week, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, he did. Now, Callaway Masters ran really well as well. He was sort of a surprise dog for me last year, sort of came out of the clouds for me. Didn't know a whole lot about him, put some fancy runs together here last year, and it looks like he's coming back into form. I'd agree with you. I think he probably needs another run or two to really get back to finding his best, but drawn in one, didn't get away particularly well, but stayed on well to finish second, so I'm sure Owen will be happy with him going home.
Yeah, and third was Capitan Garfield, such a great servant for Ken Busteden. Of course, his comrades were second and fourth or fifth last year at the Derby, Mary's Wedding, and of course the Derby runner-up Ballymacfin. On to Heat 2, and you've already mentioned this fellow, good MAESTRO. You know, we've always known he was talented, but he's lightly raced. He's only had the 8 starts. He had a 28-28 return here at Shelbourne at the end of April. Very impressive that night, but a week later disappointed. We didn't know what to expect from him tonight. He's coming back after a long layoff. A 28-61 trialer on Limerick is okay without being sensational. Tonight was sensational.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to see this dog fairly early in his career, and he blew me away before he'd ever got near a greyhound track. He got plenty of rough and tumble in early in his career. Like, he's only had 8 races. He went down to Tralee and got turned over. He went to Limerick and he got bulldozed over it as well down there, and he's a dog to me that just needed a bit of confidence. He came up here in the A1 and things went his way in the semi-final of it, put a marker down, and then he missed the break and got trouble again in the final. I think Pat's probably just freshened him up. I think he's a young dog, very lightly raced. I think he's always minded him because of the ability he has, and I'd say this has been his target from probably Tralee, and genuinely believe that he's a superstar ground. Like, there's not 5 or 6 faster than him in this Derby. When he does things right, all he needs to do is get a bit more consistency at the boxes, which I think will all come with confidence. Like I said, for a young dog, he's been in the wars a couple of times. He just needs that bit of confidence. Tonight he'll get it. I think he can run the bends a little bit sweeter as well. I know it's funny to say that for a dog in 29-24, fastest run of the night. I think he left a little bit out there as well. He'll definitely shorten the market. If he keeps trapping the way he is, he's going to be a massive player this year, I think.
3:48, 17:11. Worth pointing out on Twitter, I think obviously the Greyhound board put up the result and whatnot, and Pat Guilfoyle quote retweeted on Joey. So I'd suggest Joey is his kennel name, but also the fact that he did that suggests he's a fan of the dog and he has a bit of a soft spot for him. He will have much tougher tests, don't get me wrong. I thought it was a race where there was a lack of early speed in it, and just bear that in mind going forward. You know, when things get a little bit hotter, he's going to need to be hitting the lids like that, but You know, you can only do what's in front of you in 29-24. On tonight's track, I think there was a hell of a run. Milridge Bryce, he's a great campaigner for Donny O'Mahony. We saw him run so well in the 600 earlier in the year. And Mill Road Girl, she ran on really strongly for Michael Donnelly. I think she's going to be a bit of sport for them in the future. She'll stay a bit further, I think. Just, it's all about, though, good maestro in that contest.
Yeah, very much so. Look, in other years, in years gone by, you'd be looking at the likes of Mill Road Girl tonight and saying, Ginny, she's a great player in the bitch market, top bitch market, you know, each way, but top bitch market is as good as the anti-post market, like when you have the likes of Raha, MOFO and that in it, so it's a little bit tricky to play that market, but she's, like you said, I think they'll have great sport with her going forward.
Murty Lahey, you know, when you put a camera in front of him, he's pretty shy, but he's not shy when he's not in front of the camera. On more than one occasion, he's sort of gone out of his way to tell me that he thinks Droopy's Bro is a fast greyhound. I think it's fair to say he is a fast greyhound after tonight's display. This was the hot heat. We saw the two Derby champions clashing off the second bend. Didn't happen for Born Warrior. Hasn't happened for them all year. They've had problems, issue after issue after issue. And it's clear that the dog just isn't quite right in himself. He actually showed good pace to get involved in the battle for second off the second bend. And he was the dog that may well cost Gaytime Nemo a place in the second round, the English Derby champion. I thought Ballywalter ran okay in second, expecting him to show good early speed in the outside, and he did. Just couldn't get around Droopy's Bro, who for the first time in his career probably broke and did everything right. 29.61. He's a rapidly progressive young dog. This is only his 8th start, but I get the idea, I get the impression, should I say, from what Mert says, that he's quite backward and he's basically learning on the job.
Yeah, look, you summed them up brilliantly there. Like he ran really well last time out in that hot race against the Laddie Dan and stuff like that. I did not think he had the early pace he showed tonight. Like this was, you had an English Derby winner, an Irish Derby winner, the Champion Stakes plate winner. Like this was a serious race, loads of early. He led him up. Like I didn't think he had that in his arsenal at all. I know how good he is from the second bend home, but he surprised me tonight how he went to the opening bend. If he can keep doing that, I know the 352 might suggest that one or two of them probably, well, we obviously know that Born Warrior missed the kick, but it might suggest one or two others missed the kick as well. But like he's level with Gaytime Nemo passing the winning line, and he's still holding him to the corner. Like you have to be able to go to the corner to do that. So I was really taken by this dog. Like he is going places. He's improving every week. He's eligible for the Puppy Derby. But like, how many times, Ian, like you said at the top of this, we've done this for a couple of years now, and we often sit here foolishly nearly in the first and second round looking at the Puppy Derby dogs going, oh, I can't wait to see him in the Puppy Derby. But like we saw last year with Callaway Pro, to come into the final. Yeah. He's Mark Rufford. He's only 68 pounds. I saw him over there. He looks incredible. Murty has him in great order, but he's only a handy dog. He's with the early pace he's starting to show. He could be anything. Very unfortunate. Born Warrior. I think he still has the ability he had. Funnily enough, like you touched on, I thought he was done incredible to get to where he got to the second bend. I don't know why he went inside when he did, and then obviously he wiped out Gaytime Nemo down the back. Fierce, unfortunate. Ballywalter, I think there's a lot more to come from him. I think he mightn't have settled the best tonight, talking to Shane, so for whatever reason, but I think he'll be better next week. But yeah, really nice race.
Commons Rebel was available at massive prices during the week. Bit insulting to him when you consider he's won 10 of his 30. He's a good card around, you know, the Munster circuit. He qualified in third for John Colley. Just good to see a dog like that getting through. On to Heat 4. This was won by CLONROOSK Sydney, and this was certainly what they'd call an eye-catching display. Listen, he'd caught everyone's eye in the champion on race down to Kilkenny, but we all came to the same conclusion. He wants the inside and he lacks early. So what? Yeah. He comes from 8 lengths behind the Constellation Oaks or Constellation Laurels and Derby winner last year, Crypto Punk, who certainly moved off from the inside. 6 New in Port was third. It didn't happen for Up the Style. Sadly, she lost her action off the second bend. BoyleSports Gift and Romeo Hanzo, they had nowhere to go in the early yards, and you know, looked like for all the world that Crypto Punk was going to score. And then I thought New in Port was going to score when he ranged up into the third bend because he ran on very strongly last week. But CLONROOSK Sydney, like he's 8 lengths back off the second bend, and he wins by a couple. Like it's not just a head or a short head. This was just astounding. Yeah,
no, like you said, he was the one that looked arguably the fastest dog in the Red Mills in the final. That not taking anything away from Robert's dog, the winner of it, or any other dog in it. A tough Kilkenny track would have suited him, but Kilkenny in those finals, you need to get out in front. And like you said, he just doesn't have the early, probably against the better quality of
dive straight into it
and moves in, and even down the back straight, like it was my own that BoyleSports Gift that he cut off down the back straight, like boring in, and Gift was on the rail, like so he wants to be right on the rail. Like even Trap 2 is probably not close enough to the rail for him. So, but like that, he is some engine in him, like, and he's 79 pounds, like, he's big, strong galloper, like, and any of the hot pots or anyone with a dog in the Derby, when you're in with him, you'll take your eye off your own dog to find where he is after second bend. You know, I suppose I've had the privilege of having types like him, like Beach Avenue, in years gone past. It's not so fun now when I'm watching someone else's dog coming from the clouds. But yeah, like you said, he's another young dog, lightly raced, only 4 races. These always appear, and he's definitely going to be one. Like you said, Roberts switched up the style. Unfortunately, broke her hock. I saw her getting strapped up and everything over there, and the vet's done a great job putting her comfortable. I'm sure she'll go probably to the breeding paddocks now. It's desperate unlucky for them to see that happening, but look, she's in great care, and I hope Alan Dobbs and them, I hope she throws a champion. She's bred to do so. But yeah, Crypto Punk moving off violently out of trap 1, definitely wants to be seated further out. And New Import, another lightly raced type who was a real eye catcher last week. Again tonight, he's only learning, and there's definitely a dog with a big future as well.
Yeah, CLONROOSK certainly the one to take out of the race, no question about that. On to Heat 5, and this is a nice prospect, BALLINABOLA Ed. He duly obliged, as we expected him to do. You just get the impression sometimes from him, like, it's just a case of, I have another gear. And if Ballymac run, she gave her everything to the third bin to try and get to him, and she closed, and I went, for a stride I went, hang on a second, he's tying up in front here. He just kicked again, he wins 3 lengths, and he has some engine. My concern is, he went up fast, and it wasn't a case of, I don't mind a dog gets to the corner and then cuts across. He started edging across. That was the downfall in England last year, and it probably was a bit of a part of the downfall in Ireland in the Irish Derby last year. It's a concern, but there's no question the engine's there.
Yeah, it can be. Like, I know we've had discussions as we've done these over years, that can be a concern of yours, a wide seat that moves in. Sometimes I like a dog that does that. Like, touched on Beach Avenue earlier. Beach was the opposite. He'd go to the wall and he'd throw away lengths. Like, when a dog does move in, sometimes you come out with the better of it, and sometimes you don't. And that's racing. He definitely does move in at the first bend. There's some nights that'll win him the race. That's just the way it is. Some nights it could cost him. I know what you mean. He just glides along. Like, he just really, poetry. It
just looks effortless.
Yeah, it is. Like, he has some strike rate. Like, that's his 31st race in Ireland tonight. His 21st win. To win 2/3 of the race is when you're pretty much running against the best every single time. Like, it's an incredible strike rate. I know he got a lot of praise and compliments last year. Then things didn't go right in English Derby. I know he's won a lot this year, but it's almost like he's been underrated coming into this Derby. You know, there's a lot of talk of, and rightly so, with COOLAVANNY, HOFFA, Swords, Rex, and it's like people are just underestimating BALLINABOLA.
He hasn't gone away, you know.
Yeah, and tonight, like, I'm sure I read somewhere that Pat, you know, was ready for it, and like, Pat's won the Irish Derby. He's not coming in here tuned up to the last, like, and yeah.
He's arguably had the perfect campaign.
He's
been relatively lightly raced. He's had 7 or 8 starts this year, and
won
he's
most
had
of them.
one defeat, and that came by the shortest short heads in the Dundalk International. He's picked up 2 major titles. So, you know, it's all guns blazing for BALLINABOLA Ed. They can leave it on the track now for the next 5 weeks, and he may move in, but it's going to take a hell of a one to knock him out.
Yeah, and like, he's a wide seed. Like, how many years do we see this? Like, where the inside seeds, there's 100 and whatever of them in the Derby. Like, you get drawn in 4 with an inside seed in 5. Like, he's out there staying out of trouble. I think he's still, if I was pricing it up, Damien will have to price it up, but he'd be at the top end of it. Like you said, Ballymac Run, I thought she was unbelievable tonight. Like you, between the bottom 2 bends for a split second, I went, what's happening? Like, she's gaining on him. But like you said, as soon as he straightened up again, he pulled away. But she's running great, and I'll give a small plug here. She's a JT Pearl, so she came from Kilkenny at some point.
She had an English Derby finalist not too long ago. Droopy's got it. He's just not quite there yet, but he's coming back to himself. He's going to need to find his trapping boots, but for him to even qualify when not leading is a good sign. He's probably a dog that's had his problems, no question about it. He's been so lightly raced, but yeah, just wouldn't be surprised now if he took off some night. Just worth keeping in mind. We move on to Heat 6, and here this was another fine display. OPTIC CHICO does what OPTIC CHICO does. He's okay to the corner, but between 2 and 3, he's up there with the best of them. This was, you know, the Mill Road Bulger did 28.34 in his recent trial. Arguably his best part of the race is from the second bend home. You know, OPTIC CHICO just cruised by him into the third bend tonight. It was just it was a real statement type display. Robert Gleeson has won a Derby before. I don't know if this fella has the early to win one, but I'll tell you one thing, he's going to be deep into it.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% what you said. I think the connections to the first and the second will be over the moon here. I don't like Mill Road Bulger when he's drawn in trap 1. I think he's better from 3 or 4. I think connections would agree on that, but to try and get a draw in 3 or 4, they need to have that inside seed on him. He came away racing in a race probably not blessed with early, so even though he's doing a 3:52, like, because of the way it looks when he's clear, you think he's doing a really, really good sectional. He'll break better from the middle, but I thought he ran a great race. But he, like you said, he was a sitting duck at the second bend. Like, the writing's on the wall. There's probably not 3 or 4 greyhounds in the Derby that would be able to stay in front of OPTIC CHICO when he turns level or within a length of them. So he's a monster. His runs down Escort, he suggested that. He went to Clonmel, done some huge runs down there. Well, like, let's call it a spade a spade. He's made for Shelbourne Park. He'll do his best running up here. Big gallop and track will suit him. When it gets down to the latter stages, Robert will have to be at his best to get him away racing, to hold on to the tails of the early pacers. But if he's in striking range off the second bend, watch out.
Yeah, made for Shelbourne Park. That's it. You know,
yeah.
You can nearly stamp that in his
That's
belly.
it, yeah.
Mill Road Bulger in trap 1, as you said, ran a great race. And Savannah Hero qualifies for Brendan Matthews and Kevin Boothby, of course. It's good to see him progressing, a decent dog. On to Heat 7, the other Kobe, this time last year, this corresponding night last year, he was around a 20-25 to 1 chance to win the Derby. Absolutely stumbled out of traps, landed on his belly, he's left 10-15, and all of a sudden the hopes of Brian Clare and David Lestrange of winning a Derby are gone, and they'd only recently purchased the dog.
Yeah.
Here we are 12 months later, and he's a considerably bigger price for the Derby, but the talent is still there. For him to do 29.58 and probably give the dog in second 5 lengths from the third bend home just tells you how fast he is to that third bend. I thought it was a hell of a run. Forget about the time, 29.58. The 17.09 is more telling. That was right up there with the very fastest tonight. Just a talented greyhound, and not as dependent on the inside as he used to be. Waited till the gap was there and then edged across, but there's nothing sudden about it anymore.
Spot on. I think he left the length in the box as well. I think he came out sideways. Now, I haven't got to watch the replay. I watched it live from the stand. Whatever way I thought he came out almost with his head off to the left, so I don't think he winged it. Now, this dog can wing it, can gain a length over the first 2 or 3 strides. That's how good he can come away. So, like, to do 17.09 off, by his own standards, I wouldn't say a great start, and even by an average dog standards, I thought he left time in the boxes coming away a little bit sideways. I think he can significantly lower that clock. The 29.58, same at Born Warrior last year, but when you have them brute early pacers, the winning time doesn't matter. When it comes to, you just need to get them dogs to the latter stage, a semi-final night, final night, when the track is running good, and if they hit it, catch me if you can, and we've seen on Derby final nights, they're one from the front. I think he's arguably a better dog this year than he was, just because of what you summed up perfectly. He doesn't dive in anymore. He almost paces alongside. He obviously looks for the rails, but he doesn't barge in at all, which he did last year. So he's a player, and like you said, he's a bigger price than he is this year than he was last year. I think he could be a better dog. Burj Khalifa, if you're looking for a big price runner to keep you going, done it in the English Derby.
He's just hard to keep out of frame, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, it's when his stride gets going. Like, he's a monster. Like, he's huge. What is he? He's only 88. He's only 86 tonight. It says 68 in his trial. I can promise you he wasn't 68. He's more like a racehorse. But yeah, he just keeps on galloping. He took a hefty enough bump tonight, rode it, and as I said, closed the gap considerably in the final strides. Stories cash out running on very well in third. Yeah, good to see Gavin O'Mahony still with runners in the Derby. Had to pull one of his out, Stories Law, and Gavin, a great supporter of the game. Moving on to Heat 8, Clona Duke. You know, he has that tendency. He can leave them. You can leave a length at boxes or two. He did tonight. Sonia Grande certainly didn't. He flashed out 3:48. Funny enough, like, you get the suspicion a year ago that would have been a 3:40. He just seems to be running that little bit slower, the sectional. But Clona Duke raced up to him, slipped up his inside, went to the front, and you think he's going to win 7 or 8 lengths here. Sonia Grande kept it to 3 parts of length all the way down the back straight, and then Clona Duke started to get on top, and he goes on to win by a couple. But I thought it was a big run by the winner, big run by the second, and we might mention the third as well. 7 Beach ran a big race for a young dog that was having his first run over 550 yards. But Clona Duke, you know, he's right at the top of the market for a reason. Yeah,
look, I actually thought he came away pretty well. I just thought the Sognin Grande dog was flying to the corner. Like, Jack has turned this dog inside out. When Jack went over to England with him, I won't lie, I didn't know a whole lot about him. I looked into him a little bit more. I thought, yeah, he's a nice dog. He's probably bringing him for company for Beeper's Lariat. But, like, last week, the track was as dead as a dodo here last week, and he'd done 29.96 blitzing them, making all. It was a great run on the night, and you wanted to see could he back it up. Well, he did tonight. Look, CLONA Duke, I'd say, has probably had a light enough campaign. I know the 28.06 trial suggests he was quite ready. To me, I still think there's another level. I think what we saw tonight is not the best of CLONA Duke. I think there's better to come from him, and I know that's 29.47. He's probably the third or fourth.
You get the sense there's a 29.10 in this.
Yeah, yeah, he's that good. You know what I mean? 7 Beach, a huge eye catcher. This dog's got brute early. Completely missed the break for a lightly raced. Only had 6 races. There's definitely more to come from him, but he will need to up his starting boxes because his game is all about early, and he completely mistimed it tonight. I think he mistimed it as well in his trial, so he'll need to get the knack of these traps fairly quickly. Yeah,
his owners will be encouraged though, because he didn't fade into all around. He's only beaten 2 lengths and 2 lengths. Like, it was a good run from a young dog. Trinity Junior, I would put this down as perhaps one of the most decisive runs of the night. He didn't take a flyer, but he regularly doesn't take a flyer, but when he hits the ground, he gets racing. You know, Ballymac Pete took an absolute rocket from trap 1, and halfway to the corner, Trinity Junior joined him and passed him, and he just ran away from these. Like, he was just simply different grades to his rivals. He went on to win by, I think it was 8.5 lengths in 29.50, easy as you like. I'm sure Tim Slevin and Peter Cronin are more than happy with their Champion Stakes winner.
Yeah, I'd say they're more than happy with just more than one of the runners as well tonight. We'll touch on them later, but yeah, great night for Peter. This dog, a little bit underrated as well. I remember John Boyle passing comment on this lad back in the stake that CLONA Duke won last year. He was in the final of it, and he was the one actually that caught John's eye.
Juvenile Derby.
The Juvenile Derby. He's always been an admirer of him, and again, like a dog that probably hasn't really got his roses. You know, I know he won the BoyleSports Champion Stakes last week, but I felt he was overlooked in that. I thought when the draw was initially put out, I thought he'd be quite short.
He's been a Juvenile Derby finalist, a Ledger finalist, both as a pup or as a juvenile.
Exactly.
And of course a Champion Stakes winner. And here we are talking about winning as easy likes in the opening of the Derby. It's about time we started paying it some attention.
Exactly, and like the price of him he was 5-2 in the final of the Champion Stakes from trap 1. I know. Yourself and Barry think he's probably better suited from
see how we went up tonight.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree. I just think he can do it from any box. I don't look at one as a negative with him anymore. That's the point I make. And yeah, he runs better from 3 or 4. But this dog is a fierce good dog. Like, look at his strike rate even. You know, that's his 11th win tonight from 26 starts. Young dog, now mature and does everything right. And like you said, that race, like the Ballymun Boy dog in 2, has sprint form. The one dog took a flyer. Like the way he went to the corner, like you have to put him in that category now with them brute early pacers, like 17-12 to the third bend off a tardy-ish start. You know, he's got that early pace, and we know he stays. Like there's some of the others with that early pace, you might be questioning him coming home. There's no reservations on him. Like he'd nearly get 5.75. You wanted him to. So yeah, huge run tonight.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Ballymun Boy and Scotty Sheffer both qualified. They'll need to step up in it, but it's good for their connections to get through the opening round. On to Heat 10, and while this wasn't one of the fastest runs of the night, it was certainly one of the most exciting races of the night. It looked for all the world that Anna Bailey was just going to take over from Deadly Showtime to the third bend and ease on. Deadly Showtime wasn't having it. He really dug in deep. We know he's a good trapper. We know he has good early speed. We know he's at his best when he's in the red jacket. That was all well and good. But tonight he really dug in to land the spoils, and I'm sure Carl Ramsbottom, not a fella who's afraid to show his emotions. I'd say he was beaming from ear to ear. Deadly Showtime, a good winner, 3.48, 17.38. Anna Bailey, I thought it probably should have won, but I think it was probably more the other dog repelling him than not getting there. And Lotto of the News running well in third. He's the dog that's flying for Sean Conway. Didn't get his start tonight, probably wants an inside berth. But no, I think plenty to talk about here. Deadly Showtime, just a great campaigner for Carl Ramsbottom.
Yeah, I think all 3 connections will be absolutely over the moon. Yeah, like what you said, 29.83, not the most flashiest runs, but I think both dogs are just brilliant old stalwarts. You know, something had to give. You're right in what you're saying. Off the second bend, you're thinking Anna Bailey now will just outstay him. But Deadly Showtime, as a fierce young dog last year, ran in a 5.75 competition below in Cork. We'd beat Avenue, and I couldn't believe that Carl was running him in it. Everything I saw, he was a brute early pacer. I didn't think there was any chance he'd stay.
There's an argument to suggest that his weakest point is probably 2 to 3.
Yeah,
and that he kicks again.
And in the 5.75 in Cork, I remember Beach Avenue turned into the back straight, a couple behind him. I said, well, he'll pick this up anyway, and he didn't. Do you know what I mean? He kicked off the last bend, so this dog does stay. So I wouldn't knock Anna Bailey not getting by him. I think they're just 2 real good ones. And like you said, a lot of other news. I'd say when the draw was done, Sean was probably raging. You know, drawn out in 5 for an early pacer, having to clear them all just to qualify. I think they'll be delighted and hope for a better draw in the next round.
And so, on to Heat 11, and a certain COOLAVANNY HOFFA, you may have heard of him. It's been 10.5 months since that fateful night when he crashed out of last year's Derby, the semi-final stages. For Michael O'Donovan, I'm sure tonight would have been, a little bit apprehensive about, what might happen, and he was just wonderful. I still think he'll sharpen up for it, because I was waiting for that whoosh. Now, granted, it is checked for sure on his inside, and to get around him as easily as he did is, pretty telling. But I think it was only a sign of things to come for COOLAVANNY HOFFA. I can't see any reason for him to not shorten or certainly remain favoured for the BoyleSports Derby.
Yeah, look, he will. I'm sure they were very nervous all week, coming off that break, a spell at stud. He'd done it in trials. There's no guarantees. There really isn't, and you're expecting the ring rust. All the trials he's got put together wouldn't have been as beneficial as one race, and he hadn't had it. Michael felt that was the best way to go. I was certain he would have been in the Champion Stakes. He wasn't, and it paid due tonight. Exactly like you said, I thought to the first bend, I said, he's going to the bend well. Down the back I was like, yeah, that's a bit better. And then 17:08 comes up on the third bend clock, and you're like, fastest at the third bend of the night probably, or near enough anyway. And 29:43, I don't think Connections could have dreamed of a better run back. There's plenty more to come, you would imagine so. And he glided his way to it, like we talked in BALLINABOLA Ed, seemed effortless, seemed motionless. That was the way it was tonight. But we know at HOFFA, he is that, like you described, he is that wow performance in him. Like he has that, he done a 3:52 tonight. You wouldn't be surprised if he done a 3:42, 16:80 to that third bend. Like he's that level.
He may still do.
He might still do it. It got cold here tonight as well. Like it's worth saying for those that weren't here tonight, it did get colder the later it went on. It wouldn't have suited him probably, but coming back from that layoff, been in the kennels up until the 11th race, I don't think Connections could have dreamed of a better run. Like you said, much better run. I would check for Sir. I thought it was a nice run back. I'm a big fan of the dog. Came through the grades at Kilkenny and won a valuable stake in Kenny, and then came up and won a nice stake up here, and probably an underestimated dog in my opinion, but he runs well. And the Drombeg 10 dog, another dog with nice early pace, who will find easier races than he did tonight, and could be a nice play at a big price in future rounds.
Yeah, as I always refer, young Evan McAuliffe. I've never called him Evan McAuliffe. It's always young Evan McAuliffe, getting a great thrill, I'm sure, out of Drombeg 10, progressing to the second round of the BoyleSports Irish Greyhound Derby. But COOLAVANNY HOFFA, as I said in commentary, that'll do.
Yeah.
Moving on to Heat 12, well met. This was a hot contest. This was going to take some winning. Ballymacmarino, he was the favourite, but you just knew he had to do everything right. And as it was, he didn't do everything right, but was still bang there off the second bend. I thought he's going to win now. But all of a sudden, Mr. Chelm arrives with a rush, passing Ballymacmarino into the third bend, which is a feat in itself. Like Magical Kuba, he headed for a moment in the opening strides. I thought 2 in a row was going to play a big part, but it was well met. The shot up the inside. He's very hard to pass when he's in front. I will say that about him. He's always very plucky on the bunny, and he just kept on finding. But a huge run in second for for Peter Cronin, now of course Lee Harris, Mr. Chelm, the artist formerly known as Kildare.
Yeah, this was some race. It was a great race on paper, and I suppose probably 2 of the lesser ones were the 2 that your eye was drawn to out of the boxes, like well met and 2 in a row, winged it. You're nervous then for Mr. Chelm, Marino and Magical Cuba. Like the race could have, and a couple of times it could have got quite messy, and we could have had a couple of really hard luck stories. Now I know Ballymacmarino's fourth. I'm pretty sure on the clock he's done.
I think he'll be through.
He's through, so that's a relief in itself. Like you want to see these classy types in it. Well met, done everything right, taking nothing away from Mr. Chelm. I'd say Peters would fly home tonight. Like I'd say skip home with the way Trinity Junior ran and the way he ran. Like this would have been a rush job to get him back. He tried really well. They wouldn't have known what to expect coming here tonight in such a hard race. Probably just wishing for a decent draw and a decent heat and take a step forward. He flew down the back. He had all the ability he had last year. I haven't seen a dog outpace Marino the way he did down the back tonight. And Marino, done nothing wrong. Was there to challenge going to the second bend, and just next thing he just got wiped out.
Ran out of room at the third bend.
There
was nowhere he could go.
No.
And he got done. And
exactly.
An Undulation ran a big race. We have to mention her.
Yeah.
Another member of that brilliant Pastano and Loch later. Another one that will be bred in the future, you have no doubt. She stormed home. She qualified in third. She wasn't even on the radar down the back straight.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And unfortunately, the 2 in a row of Magical Cuba are gone out here. They're probably favoured if you put Magical Cuba in a heat next week, you know, he'd probably be possibly be favouring some of them, and unfortunately he's gone out. That's how good this race was. That was why it was very impressive by all four that are more than likely good enough to qualify there.
Yeah, Mr. Chelm, like, he's been missing from the kennel for, I suppose, 9 or 10 months.
Yeah.
I can't remember how soon after they sold him, but you know, I would say Peter did all he could to make sure he settled right back in. I'd say probably the same kennel that he was in before, everything like that, back to the old routine, and it would have helped.
Yeah, no, it would, and you know, dogs, like, sometimes, you know, I've seen it even at home, like some dogs just take off in bigger kennels, some dogs take off in smaller kennels. There's just, you know, there's certain things that Peter does that clearly get the best out of this dog, and we saw last year how good he was. He was one of the best dogs in training last year, English Derby finalist, ran really well in the Irish Derby. It was a surprise to everybody when he was sold and when he left and went to the UK. Clearly things weren't as good in the UK, but now that he's back, I can't imagine Peter thought in his wildest dreams that he could have found the form as quickly as he appears to have done. The ability is all there. He just needs to come on for that run now, take another step forward, which I'm sure he can, because he missed the break by his standards tonight. You know, he's still going to be a player, I think. Yeah,
he could certainly be a player. We move on to Heat 13, and this really was the punctuation mark at the end of the sentence, because MOFO, you know, when Hawkfield Blue hit the front early, we know how talented he is. A Champion Stakes finalist, a dog with 28-17 around here. Likely enough race, but very highly thought of by his kennel and by plenty. Yeah, I was sort of giving him a big chance myself tonight, and when he struck the front early, I went, he'll win now. But MOFO, where was she? Like, she's a bad third into the back straight, I think. She just takes off from there. She's even more powerful this year than she was last, which is saying something, because she was an unbelievably powerful lady last year. But this year, just some of the runs, like the Dundalk International sums it up. But tonight, just stunning.
Yeah, Declan O'Donoghue came out and was watching the replay on the screen there. I met him there just after the last race, and he came out to watch it. He goes, I have to watch this again. Can't believe what I just saw. Like, what she done, the running she done. She's incredible. Like, look, I think even Murty has made reference to this, that she's older now, she's a lot wiser now, she's pacing herself, I suppose, or positioning herself a little bit better than she was as younger. But she's younger, which I thought she was all early. You know, she was brilliant early pacer. Now she doesn't mind giving them a lead. She'll follow them around, pick her moment, and let loose.
She was always a good trapper. Yeah. Early probably was her game. She used to get worried out of it by the dogs in the opening corner. But now she sort of just mind herself into the corner, just picking her spots, and then just going. Off the second bend, it's like, right, let's move through these gears.
Yeah, and even down the back, like, it doesn't even look like she's going 100%, like full pelt. Like, it's like she's sort of 50 to 60% around the first two bends, ups it to like 80 down to the third bend, and then from the third bend, just let loose. And it doesn't matter where she is, it doesn't matter what the other 5 greyhounds are in again, or off the second last bend, you're going to have to keep an eye out for her, because someone's going to have to stop her or run out in front of her, because she is incredible to come home. I don't think there's anything in this derby from the third bend to the win line going to be quicker than her. I'll put her up there with OPTIC, CHICO, any of them. Like, she will be coming home as quick as anything. Like you said, Hawkfield Blue done absolutely nothing wrong. Flew to the bend, shoved his way through at the opening corner, paced well down the back straight. He still beats the likes of Ben Steady. Do you know what I mean? It's a great run from Keely's runner, so I'm sure Connection will be delighted. Ben Steady missed the break, bit of trouble at the corner, had to run really well to get back up to be third. I'm sure Pat will be happy with him too. So a really informative race, and three going through here that I think will all be players in their own right going forward.
Yeah, a lot of them are going to be players.
Yeah, well,
that's what we keep saying, but it's that
true.
way. It's a very deep derby, some real quality in it.
Yeah, savage. Like, and it always is the case. I know that there's that saying, you never get a bad derby, and I'm not going to come along and say it's the best derby we've ever seen, because we've had great derbies going forward. But like, we've seen half the runners tonight. There's a 50% chance we've seen the winner. I'm none the wiser of picking it out or telling you which one it could be. There's so many dogs I can't wait, and bitches I can't wait to see next week, and I can't wait to watch it all unfold before our eyes.
Right, we've waffled on for long enough. Thank you, Kevin. That's it, folks. The opening session of the BoyleSports Irish Greyhound Derby opening round is behind us. We'll do it again all on Saturday. We look forward to it. By then, we'll have seen the Derby winner.